Hi YouTube, welcome back to Wtf Rc Cars. So today we've got the official upgrade kit from FlySky, which consists of the real-time battery, the wires for doing the audio conversion, and the upgraded memory module for the PL18. So let's bring in for a close-up look and see how many of these mods are successful and easy to do. So we've got as PL18, we've got the official upgrade kit from FlySky. So let's have a quick look what we get in this. And I'll be using the guides from the EdgeTX team on GitHub. I will put a link in the description to all the guides, and they've got a pretty good tutorial on how to do all this. So we have as real-time clock battery, we have the expanded memory module, not sure what size that is, and then we've got a couple of really fine bits of wire for doing the audio mod. I believe you'll only need one of these on the PL18, but the EV may need two. So we'll put all these to one side. Let's have a look at the actual chip. So we've got a couple of bent pins on this, easy enough to straighten out, but this thing's tiny, but it does have a designated dot in the top corner. So hopefully we can see which way around this is meant to go, because I'm not seeing any other identifiable marks on it. And I'll see if I can get a picture of it so we can see which chip they've actually sent. So we've got a little picture of the chip so you can see exactly which one they've sent us. And we're going to have to take this thing completely apart. So let's have a look what size we've got. So I think we're going to need the shoulders off, and these are the 2.5mm hexes. See if I've got something to pop these off with. So that's them free. And I'm probably going to drop this module off just because it makes it a bit easier. So we'll take us FRM 303 off. Then we've got the top screws. So let's see what size they are. So these are 1.5mm, because I think we're going to need to get behind the screen on this one. And the little magnetic trays come in really handy for this. So once we've got all four of them removed, then we should just have two 2.5mm on the bottom. And then as bottom just comes away. And once we've got the bottom and everything off, we've just got another two screws. And for these, you're just going to need a Phillips screwdriver. So once we've got all four of them removed, it's pretty easy to just part the actual transmitter casing. And for quite a lot of this mods, we're going to need this screen off from the back of the actual LCD. So for this, we're going to want to carefully remove this ribbon cable first. And you just need to carefully release it. Slide it back, and then you'll be able to get to the lower one. And again on this, if you just carefully release it, should be able to do it without breaking anything. So that's got the ribbon cable released. Then you're going to want to remove one of the main plugs. I'll work his way over to the opposite side. And then release the clip holding what I think is the screen ribbon cable. Just be careful not to bend these too much. Then we've got another socket, and you can just carefully remove that. Then we've just got a few of these really tiny screws to bring out that hold the board in place behind the screen. I think there's only 4 of these. And that should release the board that we're after. So we've got his main control board, and what we're going to be looking at is this memory module and fitting the battery, real-time battery, into here. It's already got solder on the solder pads and they're all nicely designated, positive and negative. And we've got the little ID dot to the top left hand corner. So if you've got your ARM processor above it, the dot goes to the top. So we're going to need to unsolder this and solder his battery in there. So let's see how interesting this goes. So we're going to want to position our battery over the actual solder pads. I've done my best to get this on video, but I've got to get my hands in to hold the actual battery. So that should be his real-time battery connected in. And then all we've got to do is desolder the actual chip, which is going to be easier said than done, especially with a normal soldering iron. I should be able to clean the contacts up. Well, we should now have all pins connected. Just going to use my phone to have a close-up look. So we've got his audio cable routed from the third pad across. I've cut the trace to the original audio out and soldered the wire onto the capacitor. Got his plugs back in. We've got a circuit board with his memory chip swapped and his real-time clock battery fitted. So should be able to get that back into position. Now we've got to fit our screws. And we've got one cable. And a second cable. I believe this one is our screen cable. Then we got one cable underneath. These can always be a little bit temperamental to get back in, but don't force them because you will break the ribbon cable. So just slide these back in. They do go underneath the actual clip. It's a bit awkward to get this on camera, but trying my best. Right, so once we've got it all back together, we've got the board in, all his clips in, we then going to close this up. Because we're supremely confident in his soldering skills and we're absolutely sure it's going to work first time. And hopefully me saying that and sounding confident is enough to spur you guys on along to try and do this on your own radio. With some level of confidence that you're not going to brick the entire thing. But at the minute we've got a transmitter which should have no firmware or anything on it. So if you're doing this on the same computer that you've got your software and everything on from originally attempting EdgeTX on the PL18, you will also have the STM32 programmer installed that will give you the driver set that you're going to need. Because you may get some confusion if you're trying to update your radio and you don't have the STM drivers, because the EdgeTX buddy won't be able to see your transmitter and you don't want to inadvertently be flashing something that is not the PL18. I'll take you through it quickly. There's a fantastic guide on where to download all this software from. Again, all those links are in the original video that I did on flashing the EdgeTX firmware onto the PL18 in the first place. So let's just quickly get this radio back into some sort of functioning capacity. Not sure if there's a particular way that goes on. It has got a cut at, but nothing seems to, doesn't seem to really bother it which way round we put it. So let's quickly get these two bottom screws in, and then we should just have a solder caps. I'm quite sure there's going to be a whole bunch of comments on the video of how I soldered the chip in and how I unsoldered it, but to be fair, I'm never ever going to use that chip again in anything, so I wasn't really too concerned about what shape it came out in. And if this works, then it shows me soldering job were good enough for the actual chip to be in place where it should be. So last off, we've just got these two little things, and they can be a bit awkward, but if you wiggle them around, they usually go. Seems a bit easier if you get the front bits in first. Hopefully we've still got a functioning PL18. It'd be interesting to see what size that memory chip is, because I haven't had a chance to look the specs up. But I've enjoyed doing it, and I could recover this chip if I want. It's only got a few legs soldered together, but they're easy enough to separate. So let's bring in our computer for the day. So this one is a Lenovo Legion Go, and we're going to need a USB cable. So let's get that connected to the PL18. Try and keep everything in shot and in focus, but I'll do my best. So, been messing around with a few radios. So first off, we want to get this into DFU mode. And we've got a little beep from the Legion Go. So, we want to include pre-release. I think we're up to, is it release candidate 3 now? So then when it updates, we want the PL18, get rid of this keyboard, flash via USB. If it doesn't show up in here, you can just go to add device, and you want to add the STM32 bootloader. Don't flash anything else, because you'll be flashing controllers and all sorts on your PC. Click next, and then start. So we're downloading first, and hopefully if we've got everything right on this, it should pass the erasing chip. And that's a fairly good sign that we've got us soldering good enough for the PL18 to live once more on EdgeTX. If anybody's wondering, the solder station I was using had it set to 300 degrees. So if this works, it obviously weren't hot enough to kill that chip. I know some of them can be quite sensitive. And we are writing flash firmware. Be interesting to see if my audio mods worked, just cutting that trace, because I find it easier to just scrape back a bit of the screening and solder a trace back up than I do unsoldering a tiny little capacitor and trying to flip it to the side to then solder to. It also seems easier to solder to them little caps when they're actually down on solder pads. I know from the days of modding Xbox 360s, that's the way we used to do it. Cut the solder tracers and then write the firmware and then solder the tracers back up. So I've had quite a lot of experience at soldering tiny little surface mount stuff. And I do quite enjoy it. I've not got a particularly expensive solder station, but it does job. I can't even pronounce the name of it. Wtf 853D. It is a adjustable voltage power supply as well. And it has got a heat gun on it. I just couldn't be bothered to use it to get the chip out. But if it works, it works. But seems though we haven't seen this thing power up yet, it might not work. In which case, flame away in comments. We just have a 50%. Don't know if you'll be able to read it on video because it's a bit tiny on this screen, but I've already done a video showing how to actually use the EdgeTX buddy and everything. This is more just about, can we get these chips soldered in, and the real-time battery. See how successful that is. I believe it's a rechargeable battery, so it's probably not going to work straight away. Well, we've just cleared 80%. Hopefully once it's done we can get a boot out of the radio and then see what size of memory we've actually got to play with. Now I'm not entirely sure if the SD pack is aimed at the stock memory configuration, So it might not have all sound files and everything in it. I know that's a way they save space. Well, we've got a green light. Bad or missing data. Prepare storage. So USB storage. Format drive. We've got quite a bit of space on it now. We got 30 odd meg. I think that's what it says. Rather than 8 megabytes. I believe the standard was 8 megabytes, which weren't great. So let's see if we can go back, select SD. So we've now got drive E, 32 megabytes in size. So I believe on here should be able to select as filters again. PL18. So hopefully 32 megabytes will be enough, but the fact that the radio powered up should mean the soldering's correct. Not the quickest things to write to, these So this has only just managed to get to 12%, so I'll pause video here and we'll continue when it gets a bit further on. So we've just finished writing to the SD card. It's just unpacking assets. So it's downloaded everything, and that should be our radio fully functional. So if we turn it off and disconnect, are we going to have to do a force reset? So if we power it up, we get an EdgeTX as warning about things, but no warning about no sort of data for the actual transmitter or anything. Looks like as dials are working. As audio's definitely working. I need to work out how to turn that alarm off, unless it's because it's not connected to a model, possibly. Definitely going to have a look where that is, because that's driving me nuts, especially doing videos. So we've got a splash screen settings and everything. Let's try his calibration. So center everything, I think they're about there. So it does calibrate, and it's picking up the RTC voltage. So I take it that battery's working. But yeah, there we have it. It's all back together. Model settings, external RF, and we've got it on AFHDS3. So our FRM 303 is working. But yeah, looks like quite a successful mod. You can obviously go on, download all your sound packs and everything, whatever else you want connected to it. But it looks like that's quite a successful modification, and the sound is definitely working. So cutting that trace does work for sound. But let's wrap this one up. So there we have it, the PL18 fully upgraded sound mod.
Welcome to EdgeTX.
And if anybody's curious, yes, you can fit the full sound pack on it, or the full English sound pack. So it does fully fit on there. It still leaves you with about 6.35 megabytes left. Not a lot of memory, but bearing in mind the original memory chip only had 8 megabytes in total. Obviously you don't need the full sound pack, just the bits that you want, but it does fit on there. I have stopped the beeping. It was the battery needed calibrating, so it needed to set the high and low voltage for the actual battery, and it stopped it beeping. It's a very nice looking software, very interesting, very configurable. Possibly not for your first timer, but if you're watching this video and you're seriously thinking about doing the hardware mods, which, to be totally honest, really not that difficult to do. I mean, I didn't manage to kill radio. It's all back up, fully functioning. You just have to be careful with the temperature on the actual chip, and just take your time. The cutting the solder trace does seem to work really well. And also with the size of that solder pad on the audio line, you could solder to that and solder an extra switch in, so you can switch it between the audio source for Edge when you're operating that, and FlySky's firmware if you ever wanted to do that. I think most guys that are modding this, you're probably not going to go back to the FlySky firmware on it, because you know why you want EdgeTX. But hopefully that's gives you a bit of an insight into how it goes. If you buy the FlySky kit when that's available, you get everything you need to mod the audio, the memory size, and the real-time battery for the clock, all in one nice neat pack, so you're not having to source the chips wondering if it's the right size. You can get bigger than 32 megabytes, I believe, but whether you'd actually need it or not, I've got the full sound pack. I've just dumped it on here, and I've still got memory left. So, but thanks again for watching Wtf Rc Cars. Hopefully you find this useful, entertaining, or you just like listening to my incessant ramblings. But whichever it is, catch you guys again in the next one.